Welcome to Just Thinking. This is Mary Greendale. The title of this show grew out of a lifetime of curiosity about many different subjects. Some local, some global, and some in between. For each show, I will open with my thoughts and then bring on guests who explore the subject in greater detail. I hope the show inspires healthy discussions on camera and among viewers. To me, the sky's the limit when we are just thinking. Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and welcome to Just Thinking. Today we're doing what we do twice a year, and that is talk about the warrant for the town meeting. The annual town meeting will be upcoming on May 7th, which is just a couple of weeks away. So we have here our guests, Jeff Ritter, who is the town administrator, and Sean Reese, who is the director of the DPW. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Sean, it seems like you were just here a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't that long ago we did a show on water, but water seems to be a big and important conversation right about now. So, Jeff, all I can say is that this is an unusual warrant. Because there are not very many controversial items. And by not controversial, I don't even mean that you could have a conversation about them, because they are pretty much the standard things that we do.
Yes, there are no articles from the planning board, for instance.
Yeah, no zoning.
No zoning articles. Probably 90% of the warrant is routine authorizations that are required by the town.
Yep, yep. Now, the omnibus, which is the budget article, we don't put a number in here, but where are we for ballpark?
About just over $62 million.
Okay.
Actually, $62,733.
And 27 cents.
Yes.
But who's counting? But anyway, okay. And then, other than that, I mean, you've got some capital expenditures in here for trucks and backup generator and HVAC at the library. Thank goodness. Are they doing that now? Have they started that now?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we opened the bids last week for the HVAC system at the library, and it came in slightly higher than what was forecasted. It came in at just about $93,000. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, we'll be opening the bids for the roof portion of it. Those two pieces come together into this number here.
Okay.
This is a projected number.
Yep.
It's a good best practice, by the way, to go out to bid, lock a bidder in, because then if we put in $250,000, for instance, it'll all go.
Yes, I see. Yeah, amazingly, they all end up being exactly that.
Zero, yeah.
Okay. Then so we're going to go in this warrant. You are asking for the normal things of, you know, the revolving funds and everything else like that. We don't need to go through that. As I say, truthfully, this is, without a doubt, the simplest warrant that I have ever seen.
I do think, though, under Article 1, you'll hear the chairman of the Board of Selectmen touch on some of the projects that have been completed over the course of the last year. You know, the demolition of a flag, the disposal of Andrews School, mm-hmm. The town center signalization project. I think mm-hmm. he'll probably touch on that, give mm-hmm. an update, and of course the 8-Arch Bridge. Yeah. So among some other personnel changes he made, I haven't seen his report,
yeah.
But I think he'll probably touch on some high-level things under Article 1.
Okay, and I expect we'll hear some presentation from the chairman of the Finance Committee as well?
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Yep, he's really gotten into the rhythm of that in the last few years. Okay, so there's one I have a question about. That would be 22, rescinding the borrowing on the traffic lights. You want to just explain that one, please? Sure.
What happened last year, as you recall, a couple years ago, the town received authorization through town meeting and through a debt exclusion to borrow $1.5 million. The project is coming in slightly less than that, and by some additional revenues that were out there that were discovered, we were able to pay it off. So we have to resend the balance on that.
So we got money back.
Well, we got it from a different pocket, let's put it that way.
Okay.
We don't have to incur the cost of borrowing.
We're not, okay, sure. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so the big issue for all of us is a water treatment plant facility over on Central Street for well number 5. Mm-hmm. And if anybody is on Facebook, you know that there are frequent comments about brown water and pictures. I mean, we've gotten pretty graphic over there with some of the colored water and stuff like that. Obviously, it's an untenable situation. And I'm assuming this is the best resort. So why don't you just tell us what the situation is to begin with? Why is the water over there brown? And I don't have brown water, thank goodness, but I don't.
Well, I mean, it's an unfiltered source, so that means it's a well without a treatment plant associated with, so no filtration.
Can we stop right there and explain that we have 2 other water treatment facilities?
Correct. One's on Dopping Brook, off of Mayflower Landing, and the other's on the other end of Washington Street, 1995 Washington Street. So those serve the majority of town, and this last filtration plant will serve, if you want to call it, this southeasterly side of town. We have one other source on Maple Street, which is unfiltered, but it's a very low producer for us, and it's very clean water. So there's no iron and manganese issues. Now, certainly water chemistry can change, but we don't pump that near the rate we do number 5 on 784 Central Street. So the only remedy to clean that water, provide cleaner water, is the filtration plant. Unfortunately, we can't turn the source off because we wouldn't be able to meet the demand for the town.
So let me back up. So it's the demand that is causing us to draw more water out of the source, and as a result, we're sucking up more of. In
part, yeah, exactly. So that none of the wells were ever designed to run 24 hours a day, and certainly over the last 40 years, and primarily over the last 10 years, it's seen substantial use. And the chemistry has changed within the water, so it's higher in manganese, higher in iron, and that's how we get so many dirty water calls associated with that side of town. The closer you are to well source, logically, that's where your water comes from, so that's why it impacts, Central Street, Norfolk Street, Golding Street. Everybody off of that area gets the majority of their water from that source, and that's where all the dirty water calls come from. And we'll have them sporadically throughout town, but that's why we need to flush. We flush twice a year, all that type of stuff, to maintain the system.
Okay, and I do remember at some point, because this has been raised with me, find out why, that some of us were under the impression that the water came from any well. You never knew exactly where your water was coming from, and
right.
it was
there is a mixing. There's a dilution factor. So it all eventually, if there were no usage or no demand when you're right there, in theory, it all goes into the water tanks, mixes, and then kind of gets dispersed back out. But if you're using water and you're closer to a source, that's the water you're going to use. But yes, it does mix. Okay. But
only when it gets to storage.
Right. Well, even throughout, it'll mix throughout different areas of town. But the closer you are to a source, that's where you're going to be served from. And so if well 5 is off. Okay.
Central Street.
Right. If well 5 is not running, then they get fed from Mount Hollis, which will be mostly a mixed type of water from all the other sources. But it really never turns out. It runs 24 hours a day.
And we can't turn it off because it runs 24 hours, because we need it 24 hours a day.
Exactly. So you're the only real solution to that, and we can't, it's not like we can go turn other wells up. Pretty much everything is
at max.
It's not really max, but we need to control what we use to kind of stay within our withdrawal permit.
Yeah, and that's never gone up, right? We have not petitioned. I thought
we're just over 1 million gallons a day. We don't. Okay. We're below. What we pump is actually close to about 970,000 gallons a day. So we're below our pumping permits, but we don't necessarily want to max out one source and let another source run low. We try to run everything a little bit even, so we try and have an even distribution throughout the system.
Okay, so tell us about this water treatment facility.
The water treatment facility is a proven type of design, similar to the other 2 plants we have in town. It's a Green Sand Plus type of pressurized filtration plant designed to remove iron and manganese. Those are the primary issues that we face here in this town and throughout New England. So there's nothing new here. It's no experimental technology.
Yep.
It's just a proven technology that will work and rectify the dirty water on that side of town.
Okay. How long will it take to build?
Well, I mean, the financing process is one step, and then the actual construction, so maybe 2 years, before we're actually served by a plant down there.
That long, huh? If you have brown water, that must sound like a long time.
It is, but it's not an overnight solution, nor has it been an overnight issue.
Yeah.
So the issue's gotten steadily worse, again, over the last 10 years.
Right.
And this is how we can only, unfortunately, I ask the wheels of government move slow, and they somewhat do, but we need to make sure we we design it properly, we build it correctly, and we finance it correctly as well.
Let's talk about the financing, Jeff. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be going to the, probably to the state revolving fund for the loan. And I just want to jump in and follow up on what Sean said. You know, Sean's doing an outstanding job in managing the department, and he's been dealt a card hand of 40 years of worth of I don't want to say neglect, but 40 years of infrastructure.
Under-attention.
Lack of attention, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So he's got that he's wrestling with. He's also wrestling with the fact that the system was designed to function 40 years ago based on the current population at the time.
And well, let's think about that for you. It was about 8,000 people, I think, 40 years ago. Yeah.
And now it's nearly doubled.
Yeah.
Yeah, we serve a little over 19,000 a day now.
Okay.
With the businesses and everything, that's what our numbers
and the economic
are about.
development piece of it, of course. We didn't have the industrial parks 40 years ago. So, you know, it's a real challenge, and I think that as far as the financing goes, I think that we're going to, like I said, go to the state revolving fund and borrow the money there at like 2% interest.
I was going to say their interest is generous, I mean, low.
Yep, and that'll be a 20-year note.
It's a 20-year note, and the $8.375 million.
Right, it's a debt exclusion, which means it doesn't go into your taxes permanently.
Right.
It'll eventually go away and actually decrease year to year.
Okay, so as the average homeowner, the average homeowner will pay roughly $117 was, I believe, the number. But let's look at the average assessed value is $449,000. That's higher than the median home price. Usually we hit things for the median. I think the median is closer to $360. But at any rate, that's irrelevant. So the average assessed value is $449,000. And that would be approximately $117 in cost for that year, or each year, until it starts going down.
It starts going down after the first year.
After the first year.
So 2020 is the first kind of payment, or whenever they would see the impact, and then
gradually
decreasing
goes
down.
Okay. All right. And is there anything else that we need to know about that piece of it?
I think the preliminary design has been completed on the plant, but we need to take it to the next level and get a final design, final engineering, and that's going to take probably close to 8 months, I would think.
Yeah, it's a long process. So we have so a few years ago we did the pilot study to make sure what the water chemistry is and what type of treatment process would work. So we did that. We filed that with the DEP. So everything is in conjunction with the DEP and Mass DEP approval as well. So now we had the conceptual design done. So this is kind of what we want. This is the footprint we have. This is how we're going to build it, and this is how many vessels it's going to be and such. So now we go for the financing part. We go through the state revolving fund. It again is a 2% under the clean water. It's the cheapest alternative.
Sure.
And that's a process there for the financing.
Yeah, so it'll take time.
The first part is to get approval through town meeting process, then you submit applications, and then the state goes through an approval process. So we would know next January is actually when they let us know that this is an approved project.
Okay.
And then you have to go through doing all your bid process.
We have to do the bids. We have to do the final design.
Yeah, and then we'll have the design. As soon as I know the money's available, then I can start the design. So we're going to do it as rapidly as we can.
So that would be 2019. So January 2019 is when they release their
funds.
Okay. And then you go ahead and do the design stuff, and then it's got to take 8 or 9 months maybe to build.
Right. So we're probably
looking at 2 years.
We're about 2 years, and hopefully we can expedite. I mean, I'll do it as quick as humanly possible for these.
Yeah, and a lot will depend on weather. When you get into bad seasons, who knows whether if you're in construction in the wintertime or something like that. All kinds of things can go wrong.
Yeah, it'll be
challenging,
designed and constructed accordingly. So we'll anticipate those foul weather conditions, no seasonal. Construction times.
You're in charge of the highway department too. Can't you get them to stop the snow for a particular period? That would be good. That would be good.
That was well until the last 3 weeks of March, and then it was.
Sean's outstanding, but
haywire.
He doesn't walk on water.
Well, we could keep trying.
Yep.
And if I may, just the brochure you have in front of you, the pamphlet, the informational packet, is being sent out to every resident. Not every resident in town, but also anybody with a postal that we mail out the consumer cost report to. So not
Yep.
only people that have a water bill, but every resident in town, anybody that can be impacted by this treatment facility. So there's a little over 7,000 of them being distributed. Okay, it just gives you kind of the reasons why, kind of what, and how.
Okay, now,
And so that'd be coming in the mail to everybody.
our approval process is two-step. That is, in our particular case, we need a vote from town meeting that basically says, if in fact the people that go to the election approve this, then we are authorizing the departments to go ahead and spend it.
Yep.
So we do that in anticipation. In some communities, it might work that it's the other way around, that you do the election first,
Yep.
you know, but so forth. Go to the election, assuming it passes, it's all go. Okay.
Yep.
Let's back up then. If you were at town meeting and it failed at town meeting, it's still on the ballot,
Yep.
and if it's on the ballot and it passes, it still passes. The fact that it failed at town meeting doesn't change anything. It doesn't shoot it down.
Right.
So it still has another chance, because you can have another town meeting and now ask for the authorization to spend that money. Okay, just so that people understand, you got a two-step process here, but really the thing that matters the most to begin with is that town election.
Right, the town election will determine the type of how the plant is financed. So under the motions at town meeting, the first motion is that we're authorized to seek funding. So if we're to not go through the ballot, then we could potentially, it could be all put on the rate pay. So we hopefully pass the ballot, but we'll have to seek other options. So
Okay, so that's where I'm going. So let's just say, worst case, it fails at the election, and I don't think that it will. I think everybody in Holliston recognizes that there's an element of public good here. You know, this could happen in, it may not be in my neighborhood right now.
Yeah.
You know, I may be good with clean water, but I certainly need to worry about my neighbor over here who doesn't have clean water. So let's just assume, though, that, you know, evil spirits are flying that day. It fails at town meeting. Are these people on Central Street still in dirty water?
Okay, depends on which motion were to fail at town meeting. If the motion to do the debt exclusion fails at town meeting, then we'd be dependent on the election. The first motion passes, which authorizes us to seek funding, then we can go through the option of putting it all on the ratepayers. And you know, we'd have to examine the rates and see how we can absorb it through the water enterprise account. This way, the second way, the debt exclusion puts it, for lack of a better word, puts it on the entire town.
Right.
Now, back to your point, it's a shared issue, for lack of a better word. But I had a resident up at the office today who didn't like the infrastructure fee, which is another fee on there, because his main is new.
We do need to talk about
So
that.
you know, I've been using the analogy of, if you're a resident in town and you don't have any children in the schools, your taxes still help support the town and the you know, build the schools and the teachers, all that type of stuff. So it needs to be the same type of philosophy when it comes to water and infrastructure and those type of betterments or improvements. And that has been the problem historically with water. That's why you're always behind the 8 ball when you're trying to make improvements to water and things that you don't see that people are used to taking for granted.
Well,
so
and it's also the fact that we are very, very used to having very low water, cheap water, and it shouldn't be as cheap. You know, it just can't be. It's just not realistic. But before I get on a tangent, because that I would, if in fact then you were to go to having to do it with the ratepayers, obviously then the pro rata share might be higher than the $117 a household.
But 95% of the residents are on the water system already.
Okay.
So this would only be affecting maybe 5%. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it is time that things should be put forward as the public good. And every property value in Holliston will suffer the longer we have brown water in a neighborhood. Because if we can't address problems, nobody's going to want to move here, because they're not going to know whether their water is going to go brown the day after tomorrow.
Clearly, it goes to property values.
It does.
And the other thing is that the water is you know, acceptable to drink. It's tested regularly by DEP. Sean might want to touch a little bit about how often it's tested and what they're testing for. But just because it looks questionable, doesn't mean it's unhealthy to drink.
Yeah, but you're not going to want to be drinking it.
No, I would agree. I wouldn't want to have to have
Yeah,
that come out
I mean,
of my faucet.
and you know, your gin and tonic just won't look the same, or gin and water won't look the same.
So I always tell the people when we have, whenever we speak to the public, or I mean, yeah, you can drink the water, but logically, you're not going to drink a glass of rusty water. And
Nobody wants to.
the problem with the water, and when we say dirty water, it's rusty, whatever's in it, it's just, yeah, it is safe to drink. I mean, it's not, there's no, but there's a potential, it just, it soils your laundry, you can't take a tub, you don't feel clean. It's just, it's a bad issue.
Yeah.
And it needs
to be addressed, and the town needs to demonstrate that it can stand up and take care of its problems.
And
you know?
eventually what would happen would, the state would step in.
Yeah.
And we'd put, the town would be under consent order.
Sure.
To either turn the well off or build a plant.
Right.
So you're trying to be one step ahead of that.
Yeah.
Where it's rough enough now, and this is the right thing to do for the entire town.
It is. It is, absolutely. I don't normally, get on here with the soapbox, but this one's just, as far as I'm concerned, a no-brainer. It's got to be done. It's got to be done. All right, any final parting shots on this very, very
Exciting.
low-key, low-key, we'll call it low-key. But I want to be very cautious. We need to be careful not to say that it's so low-key that nobody goes to town meeting, because we need those votes at town meeting, and we need to have the conversation at town meeting. People need to know what's going on. So don't just blow by town meeting because it sounds as if it will be more boring than usual. Is that possible? I hate to put it that way. But at any rate, town meeting, May 7th, 7:30, high school auditorium. Have to have 100 people there just as a quorum to get started. So be there, please. Thank you,
Town
Sean.
election, May 22nd.
Town election, 22nd, absolutely.
Yeah.
7 o'clock in the morning to 8 p.m. Go vote. All right. And thank you, Jeff Ritter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean Reese.
Thank you.
All right. And thanks, HCAT. And we'll see you next time. Bye.